So if you were like a mutant, like a member of the X-Men, what would your power be?
Oh god. See, this is what I'm talking about because you're always like, "I got a question for you for our intro," and then I
Mm.
just get seized with anxiety. I I really don't know. It would probably be something really, really dumb, like, what it would truly be, like, Strontium Dog level, like, dumb mutant shit where it's like, every time I sneeze, my feet turn into tiny cows or something.
So I was when I read the X-Men, I was a big fan of Generation X, where these mutations are a curse as much as they are a blessing,
Cows
more or
for
less.
feet is up
Yeah.
there, by the way.
But I would like my mutant superpower just be able to hear somebody who's talking to me in a crowded space.
That's
That's
pretty good
that's
one,
that's
actually.
real middle age wish list for you there. I don't want to fly. I don't want super strength. I don't want to turn invisible. I want to be able to hear the person who's a foot and a half away from my face in a busy bar.
Luckily, technology's caught up with you. You can just get hearing aids, Mike.
I don't think I'm quite at that point. Anyway,
Oh.
this is the Venn diagram, the nexus, the overlapping point, the intersection of nerd stuff and middle age stuff. This is in orbit every Wednesday, athletes.
Moo.
Get 2000 AD now. Get.
All right, young athletes, I am Molch-R. This is Chloe, and this is In Orbit every Wednesday. Thank you very much for joining us once more. Hope you enjoyed last week's episode, which is all about Lawless, which a lot of people said big thumbs up to that one. So make sure you get the collections from 2080.com or 2080 app. Um, we are talking. Well, yet again, we're not doing a prog review this week. But Prog 2433 is out at the moment, along
And
with
it's great.
and it is great, fantastic. You should subscribe, and obviously magazine 480, and not 450 as I said last week. I've no idea why. Like in my head, maybe maybe COVID just screwed up with my sense of time. Yeah, magazine 480 is out now. Um, I'm gonna just mention something which I thought was really sweet. So, if you recall, a few episodes ago, we did we had a chat about music in 2000 AD and how music is inspired by 2000 AD and intersects, appears in how the comic has portrayed music and musicians over the years. Anyway, I get an email, and at
This is
first,
news to me, by the way,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
what's
Well, no,
happening.
you'll enjoy this. So first of all, I thought it was spam because of what it says as the in the to field. Sorry, in the from field. It says from Clobberpunk.
You did tell me about this.
Hey guys, long story short, we are an anti-fascist punk band called Clobber from London. We were recently drawn to your podcast episode about 2000 AD music. We have a song called Bully Boys on our second EP. We are massive fans of 2000 AD, and as such, this song was inspired in part by Michael's book, I Am the Law.
Ah!
Flattery will get you everywhere, and is written from the point of view of a sit/perp living in Megacity 1 under siege from the judges while robbing a store. We wrote it in a way that someone who hasn't read Dread will just hear a song that is anti-police, and those who have will get the Easter egg. We'll be honoured if you could add the song to your playlist. Yeah. Fun fact: we got the chance to meet John Wagner and tell him about it a few years ago, as there were lines he wrote in the lyrics at the signing. To which he replied, "Make sure you give us a quid when you make your millions." Telling his quid should be in transit in like a trillion years. So a huge thank you to Charlie, Sam, Orgo, and Worm from Clobber.
Yes.
And I don't know how to add it to the playlist, but if you go along to Spotify or wherever you get your music and look for what was it called, Bully Boys by Clobber, then yeah,
I'm so thrilled by this. How there was not actually more crossover earlier with, like, just a buttload of punk bands, just crusty shit, doing, like, 2000 AD and Judge Dredd themed stuff, how there wasn't more is completely beyond me. So, like, when you told me about that, I was like, "Ah, yes! This is exactly what we need." So, yes. Thank you.
I wonder if Dread's too on the nose for punk to a degree.
It's
It's
too
worth thinking
punk
about
for
anyway.
punk.
Yeah, too punk for punk. There we go. But no, thank you very much to Clubber for that charming email, and yeah,
So
do go
good.
along and have a listen, and sling them a 0.0000001 pence per listen.
You
Or whatever
know
the heck.
that John was so game for that.
Oh
He
yeah,
was
yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, he loves stuff like that. But yes, wonderful. We decided. Well, you decided what the
Yeah,
theme was going to be, and I'm going to link into this theme for this episode by answering a viewer question
okay.
who wanted to know what was on our walls behind us.
Yes.
Because you kind of intersperse between things on the walls and blank wall and various things, where mine remains pretty fixed.
Yes, you live in the nerve center or the offshoot of the nerve center.
Big, huge,
You
huge,
just
great
stay
big rabbit ear
you just stay
emoji.
in that room.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. 5 years in counting. Thank you very much, COVID. Um, I'm pretty sure I reference that every episode. Anyway, I mean, behind you, you've got Judge Dredd. You've got a cardboard cutout. You've got what underneath the Billy Bragg flag.
Yeah.
What is that movie? What is that from? I recognize the mask guy.
It's Phantom of the Paradise, the Brian De
Phantom of the
Palma movie,
I've never
and
seen it.
it's this gorgeous print of a painting done by an artist named Donald England, and, I saw it at a convention sometime last fall and was just like, "This" because I love that movie. It is just rock opera camp and in, like, true De Palma fashion, and I can don't get me started on that movie because this will become a movie podcast. Um, yeah, I mean, I've got the Simon Bisley was kind enough to do, the inside cover of the first issue of the Gutter Review zine, and he drew, me squaring up with Lobo. So,
Of course he
I
did.
don't mean to boast, but it's one of the coolest things that I own. Yeah, Tank Girl stuff, a bunch of deadlines in Crisis, and, an Eraserhead little Eraserhead print down there by
Oh,
the
yeah.
same guy who did the Phantom of the Paradise. I'm gonna have to you can't really see it over here. I'm another episode, I'm doing an up close because a wonderful, incredible, lovely fan of the Gutter Review gave me, no joke, a transparency that he found in a bin back in the '90s from Toxic Number 1.
No.
Okay, I've gotta go grab it. Hold on.
Yeah. You can't. I mean, apologies, Ursula. We're eating into debate and chat time, but this is important.
Look at this. And he was like, hold on, let me hold it up to the paper again.
Oh, and it's the Kev O'Neill band. Is that number one? That is bloody number one. So that's that's one of the key line transparencies for the printing press.
Yeah, and he found it in a bin. He found it in a bin
I
and he
mean,
has kept it for years and years and years. And he was lovely enough to basically send it along with Graham when he went to the UK last time, because he had gone to Thought Bubble and I couldn't.
yeah.
And somebody gave it to him and said, like, "Can you give this to Chloe? Like, I know that, like, I want, like, somebody who will appreciate it because I am one of the trash people that loves Toxic for a variety of reasons." Um, and
If
so, like
anybody feels like giving me pieces of comics history that they've fished out of bins, by all means,
Yeah, no, this is entirely on brand, but it was like I got it and I was just like, "Oh my god," just crying, screaming, throwing up. Super excited.
Oh, that's
So
really
that's
lovely.
also yeah, really,
Yeah,
really wonderful. People are nice sometimes, imagine.
sometimes. Let's
And you've
not get
got
ahead of ourselves.
and you've got all of your I've got more on this wall too, which I can't show off right now because I can't be arsed to turn around my computer, but you've got, like, your collection's just stupid and impressive, makes me mad.
I've been very lucky, to be
Yeah,
honest with you.
just a little.
Um, 'Cause there's various sort of Judge Anderson pages, including like the map page from Shambhala, which is one of my favorite pages, which my wife got. Um, Having remembered, I think, a conversation from like the first 2 months of our relationship, and her mum turns out lived down the road from Arthur Ranson, so they just went and visited him, and he had a big pile of artwork, and that was in there, and she remembered. Reader, I married her. Um, the main reason I'm bringing this up is, the other stuff. There's Jock and a Fraser Irving and Declan Shalvey and Simon Gain and whatnot. But and also a Tim Sale Catwoman,
I hate
which
you.
is really rather lovely. But anyway,
That
the reason I brought this up is to actually, after about 10 minutes, segue into what we were going to talk about, which is these two pages here, which are the final two pages from the Strontium Dog story Rage. Which, if you've not, well, if you have read it, it is the "because I hate you" moment, which, as I've said multiple times on this podcast and indeed others, is the greatest moment in comics, and I will brook no argument upon this point. It obviously helped by the fact that when I read it as a child, I wept. I wept, Chloe, tears,
you still
childish tears.
probably do.
It's still incredibly emotional. And I was very fortunate that someone had heard me. That well, the person who had those pages got in touch to say, "I've heard these are your favorite pages. Would you be interested in purchasing them?" And so, a huge thank you to David for doing that. But
I mean,
talking
the
about that, I we were going to talk about, and hence the intro, mutants, and how Strontium Dog is a better mutant comic than X-Men, I think, is
You're
what it
going
boils
with the
down to,
angle
isn't it?
that I wanted to?
Yeah, yeah, why not?
I I am unwell right now, listeners. This this particular subject where, like, specifically Strontium Dog is the better version of the X-Men is one that I have been rambling about and that people have actually asked me to stop writing about
Mhm.
for the past, like, 5 years. I have uh
Go on.
'cause here's the thing, I think this is like, Strontium Dog in particular is a subject that you and I can both talk for our, like, entire respective
Oh,
countries about.
this could easily be like 3 hours
I
long.
know.
Yeah.
Just kidding, we're screwing it up with you guys this week. This episode's 2 hours, buckle up. Like, I I mean, Strontium Dog's always like, since discovering 2000 AD, Strontium Dog has always been, like, a cornerstone for me. It might actually, be hence the I mean, anybody listening, part of my 2000 AD sleeve is, I have Midden Face right front and center because he is one of my favorites, but I also have a Johnny here. It doesn't, like it's I don't even know where to start, Mike. I feel all tongue-tied. I feel
Well,
overwhelmed.
let's for those, I mean, I shouldn't imagine that complete 2000 AD newbies are necessarily listening to this, but maybe some people have accidentally wandered in from YouTube at the mention of the X-Men. So buckle up, sunshine.
Oh,
Um,
boy, y'all are in for a treat.
no, so Strontium Dog series created by John Wagner and Carlos Ezquerra, and then written by John Wagner and Alan Grant, about effectively mutant bounty hunters in the future. But these are not the superpower having mutants of most comics. They are a properly persecuted minority. So the mutation expresses itself in deformity
Sometimes
through
useful, sometimes not.
yeah. So one character, his head is in his knee.
What's
Another
his
character,
name, Mike?
kidney. And this will be a thing throughout. Like, I don't think there's a strip that John, even like the out and out comedy strips. I don't think there's a strip that John and Alan enjoyed writing as much as they did Strontium
Oh
Dog.
god, no. Absolutely not. It's
Um, but
the
yes,
torso from Newcastle? Just
right, no, right. Remind me that I'm looking at the time and thinking we need to actually get on with the discussion, but also there's something I want to show you. So they after a nuclear war, they have been their bodies have been warped by fallout, and they become a persecuted minority upon whom all the ills of society are thrown. Stop me if this sounds really familiar. And the only job really open, there's a civil war. There's like a mutant rebellion, and there is ostensibly an end to that civil war that sees the fascist regime that was persecuting them and trying to execute them overthrown. But really, society hasn't really changed, and so the only acceptable quote unquote job available to mutants is as bounty hunters. So from a space station called the Dog House, they're called the Strontium Dogs because strontium 90 is the radioactive element that's caused their mutations, and Johnny Alpha and Wolf Sternhammer are the greatest strontium dogs of them all, hunting down the scum of the galaxy. Johnny has he's one of the rare strontium dogs that actually has a power of some kind. And he hasn't got pupils in his eyes, but he's able to see into men's souls. And occasionally has that like X-ray vision.
X-ray.
Um,
Yeah.
Wolf Sternhammer is a Viking from the year 980 or whatever. Long story. There's a lot of time travel in this.
Yeah.
And some highlights, but not all the highlights of this strip include an attempt to go back and arrest Adolf Hitler,
Yeah.
a fantastic cameo by Ronald Reagan,
Mhm.
um, amongst many other comedy elements. There's a crossover with Judge Dredd.
Mhm.
But then for me, as much as I enjoy the comedy, it is a couple of stories based around a criminal gang called Bubba's Gang,
Mhm.
who Johnny and Wolf go after. And if you don't mind spoilers, but the Bubba Gang storyline is basically where Wolf comes a cropper, and then there's a whole revenge storyline called Rage, from which those two pages are the last pages, which is profoundly one of the best things I've ever read.
Yes.
And so and I'm still looking at this time thinking we're running out of time to debate this. But Strunching Dog is it's brilliant. It's funny. It's emotional. You get invested very quickly. The artwork is just Carlos Ezquerra,
Carlos
you know,
Carlos at the top of his game, which
oh,
is saying
100%.
something.
Yeah, there's a particular frame. I posted it on Instagram a few months ago from a Strontium Dog story called "The Killing," which is just like a robot getting shot up,
Yeah.
and like the entire frame is both action and sound effect, but the action is happening to the sound. It's this massive kind of dong, and
Mhm.
the letters are crumbling, and it is insane. Anyway, Chloe, please interject to talk
Okay.
more about Strontium Dog. Go on.
Okay. Well, first, what I was gonna say is like that page in particular. There's a whole bunch of there's a whole bunch of panels in particular that Carlos did that are just remarkable. It's a step above. But he was so good at texture. He was one of those artists that added texture to
Yeah.
everything, and we kinda talked about that last week with Lawless too, but it's like and, like, the artists that go that kind of classical route where everything has, like, a feel to it when you're looking at it, it's 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 mm. So, my point, Mike, ultimately, Strontium Dog for me, I have tried uh, there are a lot of X-Men stories that I enjoy, okay? You can't deny it. Like, Chris Claremont, best to ever do it. It's, there's lots to good to say about the X-Men. However, something that I has always prevented me from getting properly into the X-Men as a larger, long reading concept is that nothing fucking happens. And like, it's this story about an oppressed class, and so many people in reality, have latched on to the X-Men for that representation, and now while that's extraordinarily important, especially in a broader readership sense, Strontium Dog lets that oppressed class get mad. And I understand that the X-Men is largely about, like, people being angry and trying to make changes, trying to make the world more tolerant. But what Strontium Dog does for me and what I picked up from it just even reading it the first time is that sometimes being tolerant doesn't work. Sometimes you have to break shit and you have to get mad. And sometimes there are people who are oppressing you, who have to pay. And and like for all that so many X-Men storylines, they kind of make some kind of change, but it's Marvel, so they have to keep it going, so stuff's still really bad. Strontium Dog lets that end. Like it does keep going because oppressive regimes never truly die. But at the same time, there are things accomplished, and the anger of that oppressed class is actually able to be heard, and it's it's effective. Like, for as funny as all these storylines, like, there's so much comedy in Strontium Dog, and even just the little teeny tiny tidbits, it's also extraordinarily emotional, and I think it's way more of a relatable, um story of fighting back against oppression than the X-Men ever has, and it actually does something. It does something, and it lets people be angry and let that anger be effective, which is way more inspirational,
And do you know
especially
what's
right
interesting?
now.
We spoke to we spoke to Lauren Bucas, the writer, who's South African,
Mhm.
ages ago, and she was reading Strontium Dog during apartheid,
Oh god. How
and like that, the kind of the idea behind Strontium Dog lands very differently in that situation to something like the X Men,
Yeah.
where the when we join Strontium Dog, the Civil War has already happened. The Mutant Rebellion has already happened. Notionally,
Yeah.
things should be getting better. End of prejudice. But then but then you've got Nelson Bunker Creelman, who's this Oswald Mosley slash Nigel Farage style
Yeah.
populist, who's a fascist
Mhm.
and has his own brown shirts, and that all that's always coming to a head as well. But there's this incredible panel, and it's just one of my favorite panels in comics, where it's talking about how once the Creelers, once Creelman's boot boys have been defeated, there's a transition to a peaceful, tolerant, liberal regime, and the narration goes along the lines of the old oppressive structures are torn down, and new structures rise in their place. And it's two panels. The top one is an image of the Creelers in their uniforms, and
Mhm.
then the panel underneath is exactly the same people in exactly the same pose in different uniforms.
Mhm.
And that comment in one panel of the persistence of oppression
Yeah.
and of prejudice, it's really important to note we're not mocking anybody for liking the X-Men. You know,
No, of course not. I mean, it's
and
popular
there's
for a
nothing wrong.
reason.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the X-Men. We're just saying that Strontium Dog is better.
It's just that they're pussies.
No, good God. Um, and there are lots of people who write very clearly and candidly and
Yes.
honestly and openly and intelligently about the X-Men and about the difficulty of the origin of X-Men starting up in the Civil War, in the civil rights era in the
Yeah.
1960s, and Marvel trying to latch onto that, and you can argue whether that was from altruistic purposes or purely cynical ones.
I think it was
Um,
probably back in the day.
but Strontium Dog starts up in Star-Lord, which was the sister comic of 2000 AD that eventually merged back into it, and Star-Lord basically got Strontium Dog and ABC Warriors,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
went on to be two of its greatest strips. Um, Strontium Dog starts at the beginning of the Thatcher age,
Mhm.
and at a time when there were the civil disturbances in St Paul's, in Bristol, and Brixton, and Moss Side, and all these. This incredibly apposite comment. The entire strip, at its heart, has comment on the situation. Even as Johnny and Wolf go to hell, they go back in time to arrest Adolf Hitler. The whole storyline about how Johnny meets Wolf is he goes back to the 10th
The
century,
Viking age, yeah.
and the Viking comes back with him and has a jolly old time.
And talks about cucumbers,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah.
like you do.
And
It's
and yeah, go on.
I think that, I'm trying to think of an eloquent way to say this. I'm a better writer than a talker when it comes to this, unfortunately, but, like, it's I think that X-Men did start out as it was an altruistic thing where it was because that really was a period of Marvel where there were people working on these strips where they were really trying to say something and use comics as a pushback. But I think that it still continues to do that to an extent, with perhaps different motivation on perhaps behalf of a corporation. But that being said, I think that Strontium Dog has started with the message and has never not continued the message for the same reason, if that makes sense. It's, um, it's consistent, and it's consistent about oppressive regimes, about fascism, it's consistent about, trauma and anger, and it's, uh I don't know. I don't know a better way to explain it than it's people in the position that they're depicting are allowed to be angry, and sometimes that anger needs to come out in ways that feel, cathartic and, effective for the people being oppressed. And, like, honestly, I granted, I do not know much about contemporary British politics. I can only imagine that it is the exact same pile of shit that it is over here. But like having a I've been recommending Strontium Dog to people left and right now, um, under our own delightful oppressive regime, uh, and there have been a number of people who have been like, "This works. This
Mm.
works." Where it's like, yeah, sometimes you gotta bust out the big guns, and sometimes you like, it's the let people be mad. God, just let people be mad. about the circumstances in which they have to live in, that they're forced to live in, that they're not allowed to live in. It's yeah, it's the nature of being a part of an oppressed people, and and
And I, I think also because it is effectively a space western,
I mean, yes.
properly spaghetti western, and it's that notion of and I've been watching a lot of westerns recently. The West, the old West, tales of the old West, of the gunslinger, the man with no name, etc., etc., etc. These are people bathed in blood
Mhm.
who, whether they like it or not, are crafting a world they can never live in.
Yeah.
And and that point's been made by, like, the Serenity movie, and
Yeah.
and Unforgiven, which I think I've mentioned I watched recently.
Yeah.
Um, and that that notion of Johnny not being, he was a freedom fighter
Mhm.
in his youth,
Yeah.
um, and
That was part of his come up when he,
yeah,
before he even became the leader of the Strontium Dogs. It was the just a natural ability to take that anger and use
yeah.
it.
But as an individual, this is the thing,
Yeah.
because he's not the leader of Strontium Dogs. He's just a Strontium Dog.
Yes.
He's the best one because he channels his anger and his rage
Yeah.
into what he does. But all of them are, they're dogs. The whole situation in which they are competing against each other for bounties.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fundamentally Western, old
Yes.
West kind of notion, but um, that they're like, well, this is a job for you. You're animals, you're
Mhm.
dogs, so go and fight over scraps.
Yeah.
And Johnny as an individual represents the anger and the rage and the catharsis, but also the nobility
Yeah.
and the complexity and the nuance of somebody who's like, I just want to live my life, and yet
Oh,
my life is one that's utterly bathed in blood. And he's not, him and Wolf aren't, and the stories kind of do touch on this a little bit. They're not they're not saving up for a retirement.
no.
They're not working their way towards a point where they can go, oh, we'll get a nice cabin and just go and, live there. Um,
There's no end point
there's no
until
endpoint. It's
yeah.
just, this is their life. They completely have to live in the moment. Um, and all the other strontium, there's amongst them, there's bastards like the Styx brothers. There's people like, so many war veterans. Like, when you first meet some of them, it's like, oh, it's another Strontium Dog, and then later on, it's revealed they were like a general
Yeah.
in the Mutant Uprising. I am going to show you this, actually. I said I
Okay.
would, but my friend Oliver Redding is a very talented artist, and years ago he did this for me, which is he did the torso from Newcastle, which is one of the fantastic mutants in Strontium Dog, but he did it as like about a boxing bout poster from the Victorian period.
I would chop off your mustache to have that.
I love it, and it's the
Oh my
puns.
god.
Previously known as George Moore, the undefeated of Monk Seaton, his nefarious fifth bounds, terror of Tyneside, tosses from Newcastle, takes on all comers in bare knuckle bouts of brutal brawn beneath the Baltic ruins. Undercard contests that will thrill one and all. The Killingworth Killer versus the Blade and Brawler. So these are all places in and around
God.
Newcastle. The Gateshead Grappler versus the Heat and Hammer. Uh, yeah,
That is one
admittance.
of the best things I've ever seen.
It's great, isn't it? Admittance 2 creds, mutants free. And despite all my house moves over, because he was my housemate when I lived in Leeds, and despite all the housemate moves since, and the kind of purges of my possessions, I've kept this because it's one of my
That is
favorite things.
incredibly cool. I'm
Um,
nauseous with jealousy right now.
but yeah, and please don't vomit.
The
Um,
the, um kind of real quick, because I know that we are running out of time. Again, we will actually do another Strontium Dog episode. We can't not.
Let's talk more in depth about this.
Yes, but what the to the point that you brought up earlier, not only does he embody that emotion, that Johnny embody that emotion, that rage and all that, but the nobility as well. It's not that he's the leader of the Strontium Dogs, it's that he is an example
Mm.
of what is possible, and I think that that serves more as inspiration, than necessarily a form of leadership.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but
But it,
and on the nobility of it too, I mean, he's spoiler alert, everybody. He's the son of Krillman, and it's how it's the value of uh being in that position, being ousted from it, and finding a way to fight back. That is extremely good. He's my favorite character in all of comics with dad issues. He is daddy issues incarnate, and I love that for him.
yeah, yeah. No, it's fantastic, and we are going to do more of this. I
We
think.
have to. It's inevitable.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a subject that we can probably come up with 10 different subjects
Well,
underneath it.
right, I tell you what we do.
Mm.
Um, uh, in the comments, Earthlets, on YouTube and on Blue Sky and Facebook, tell us your favorite Strontium Dog moment.
Yeah.
And what we'll do is we'll kind of string those together and we'll do a reread and we'll talk about your favorite moments in Strontium Dog and what we think about them and how they interact and everything. Um,
We'll do like a whole because we need to I'm sorry, we gotta go through like individual stories. We
yeah,
gotta.
yeah,
We
yeah, 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 yeah.
gotta.
Yeah. If you've not read Strontium Dog Earthlets, then you should. End of slow. No.
That's it.
Uh,
And that's the episode
you
ends
should.
there.
Sorry, I just realised I don't know where I've put my number one. But the Search and Destroy hardcovers are very beautiful. This is volume 2, which begins the 2000 AD years and has the Stickelgruber grab, which is the Adolf Hitler.
Stickelgruber Grab
Um,
is one of my favorite stories, so we gotta do that one.
it's just, we haven't even talked about the Gronk. Um, Never, never mind anything else. So, yeah, we will talk about. So, in the comments on YouTube and on social media, and if you want to email us, it's thrillcast, all one word, THRILLCAST at 2000ad.com. Tell us your favorite your favorite Strontium Dog stories, and we'll do a whole episode where we go into some depth. Not to step on Steve's deep dive toes, but we're going to do it anyway. But just on the feedback thing, we really want to do a Q&A episode.
Yes! It's finally
So
happening.
if you have questions about 2000 AD, if you want to ask Tharg a question, we'll we'll
Yes.
we'll get some responses from him. But if you've got questions about our opinions on stuff or about the podcast or just, anything
In general?
really, pop it in the comments, thrillcast at 2000ad.com, do it on socials,
Yeah, I was about
and
to
we'll
say,
have
I
an
think we'll
episode for you.
probably both end up putting it up on our socials too, so just
Yeah.
respond to those as well.
Yeah. Wonderful. You're on Blue Sky as
Uh, I'm on Blue Sky as punk rock mom jeans,
yeah. Just
but
don't just
rock
don't just
has
don't
is
look at the other. Just don't
R-O-K.
look at the other.
It's R-O-K instead of R-O-C-K, though.
Yeah. Punk rock. Mum or mom?
Mom, because I'm
Mom.
American.
Okay. Punk rock mom jeans on Blue
Yeah.
Sky, and I'm Molch-R Molcher on Blue Sky. So yes, we've gone completely over. We just what is time now?
Whatever.
Um,
It's a flat
but thank you
circle.
so much, Earthlets. We love Strontium Dog. I'm sure you love Strontium Dog too. If you've got any questions, comments, we'll do another
Yeah.
episode all about Strontium Dog. And play along with the Q&A. We should be back in 7 days' time, where you can expect more more off-topic talk and then us going, crap.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for joining us. Subscribe to 2000 AD, subscribe to 2000 AD newsletters, download the app, etc., etc. Corporate message here.
Yes.
This was In Orbit every Wednesday. Earthlets from me and from Chloe. Splendid Birthrig.
Get 2000 AD now. Get 2000.
Well, thanks for joining us on In Orbit every Wednesday, Earthlets. Make sure you like and subscribe and go along to 2000 AD, where you'll be able to subscribe to 2000 AD and the Judge Dredd magazine. Sign up to our newsletter and you'll get hundreds of pages of free comics to download. And download the app for your Apple and Android devices. Now, don't forget, Earthlets, this is the 2000 AD universe. We just live in it.